On this week's episode of the WNP podcast, it's my guys' time. Stay tuned. Episode 171 of the We're Not Professionals podcast. I'm your host, Mike Mitchelson, and joining me today, as always, my co-host, Chase Crawshaw. Chase, how are you?
I'm doing swell. Thank you for asking. Other than the fact that I was scrolling Instagram before we started here, just looking at, and just indulging some social media. Haven't done much today. And then I saw a post from Barstool Game Time that a gun skin in CSGO sold for $400,000 of real life money, and now I'm just angry because why is that a thing?
$400,000?
Yes.
I'm gonna have to start playing CSGO. What the frick?
That's what I'm saying, dude. You open random packs of CSGO. Oh look, I got $500,000. I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm not a. I'm a Smite guy, and there's some pretty cool skins in Smite, but I gotta say, I think the most I've spent on a Smite skin was maybe $20. So 400,000 seems a bit out of my price range.
That's what I'm saying, dude. That's crazy. Well, that's wild.
Well, now you brought all of us down because you, me, the listeners, none of us are $400,000 richer, but all of us now are interested in playing CSGO. So,
yes,
great job. Today on the show, we're going to be doing My Guys. We did it last year, and we had Landon on with us last year. I forgot to reach out to him until I think it was just yesterday. I was like, oh, I should probably invite Landon. And so I texted him, see where he was at in his process, and he still had a little bit to go. So I was like, all right, you know what? We'll just do Chase and I. We're going to do 5 each. And these are guys that we are much higher on than the consensus, as well as I would say, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but Chase, you can agree or disagree. I think that these are also guys that we're willing to put our names on and say, yes, these guys are going to be successful at the next level.
Yeah, pretty much. There's on my list, I've got 9 guys I felt comfortable saying my guys that I believe that I'm very high on it. I think they can have success, but every guy I understand their flaws overall, so I could see a path where maybe they don't, but I'm such a firm believer that I can't not bring these guys up.
Absolutely. So it's going to be a good show, and it's a little different compared to our rankings. I'd have to imagine that you have heard of, if not all of these guys, at least most of these guys, because I would have to say if there are top guys, they would be in our top 8 or 10, however many prospects we did for that respective position. So I'd have to say you've probably heard of most of these guys, but we're going to tell you why exactly they have found a special place in our heart, and why we think they could be so successful. So, like I said, 5 each. We're going to go one at a time. Chase, we'll start off with your number 1.
So my number 1 is running back. I think you know where I'm going here.
Yeah.
My dude for years, running back Deuce Vaughn is who I'm starting off with there. You could have thought the other running back that we talked about too, but Deuce Vaughn, he is my number 1 my guy. He tops my list of my guys because I understand. I understand the hate, but it's also not very justified for me. Yeah, he's a small player. I get that. How many running backs have success under 200 pounds? Yes, I get that. But it's not just that. It's different. We've seen a smaller running back have a lot of success. Tariq Cohen was very good till his injury, and his injury was not because of his size. His injury was just an unfortunate injury that happened. So don't say, oh, because he was small. He didn't get tackled and die. He had a tough ACL injury. It is what it is. And then you see Darren Sproles. He had a very successful NFL career for a guy, of his stature. And now we're talking about Deuce Vaughn, who is a very different build because he is smaller. He has a strong, a stronger BMI, like index percentage. So when you're comparing those, like it's a completely different type of back. He's got great agility, great elusiveness, but he has that power. He has that boom. He's not afraid to run into you. Like, he really isn't. And it's so unique to see from a guy this size. And from the first game I saw him play college football, I was always a fan and never disappointed. Every single game, it's like, dude, this guy is the only reason Kansas State even bothers competing in football games, because he really he carried the load for that team, man. And I saw a stat today. I meant to save it, but I forgot, and I don't know if I'll be able to find it. But it was yards per target over expected for running backs all time in college football since like the stats being recorded, and it'd been last like 15, 20 years or something. And Deuce Vaughn was like sixth, like all time that list. So he was putting up fantastic receiving numbers, like that he was not expected to, which is just, I think he's a very talented runner, and that just proves that he's also a very talented receiver. So he's a guy that no matter where you want to use him, I understand he won't be used as a all, every down back on an NFL team. That's fine, whatever. Even if you use him as like your 1B or a second running back, like you're not going to find many better 1Bs or running back 2s in the league. I'm a firm believer in that. I think it's the type of dude that he's in the mid to high 4.5s, like fours for carries, like 4.5 plus for yards per carry. And I think someone that can safely catch 45, 50 balls a year, if not more. I think he's just someone you're going to want to use in an offense because the skill set, it's so unique and so impressive. And, maybe you can do different things with him because of that, like that size, that build that he has. I don't know, as long as he can prove that he can hold up physically and he can run some guys over, like sky's the limit.
Yeah, and we talked about how Deuce Vaughn could be awesome in a thunder and lightning type of role. We mentioned Dameon Pierce and the Houston Texans. That could be a nice little fit for him. Deuce Vaughn was a guy, I think I had him either 6 or 7 in my running back rankings initially. He now sits at my number 9, but that's no hate towards him because there's a lot of really talented backs in the draft this year. And with the whole, he's small, durability issues, question mark, all that kind of stuff, he's thick for a smaller guy. And I think the only way I would have durability-ish or question marks about him, I should say, is not because of his size purely, but because of his size and play style. You mentioned how he likes to be physical. He's got that dog in him. He likes to put the boom on people. And I'm just worried if he tries to do that against, a 6'4" player, that might not go over too well. But there's not much to hate about Deuce Vaughn. I don't see him as a 3-down back. And I think you mentioned, that's not going to be his role at the next level. And when you're looking change of pace back, he's going to be a top 3 change of pace back in the league. No doubt in my mind.
Absolutely. Like, he's just so much fun to watch, and he's going to be so much fun to watch as long as whoever takes him gives him a fair shot. And if he gets a draft capital that I think he deserves, or even close to what I think he deserves, like he's going to do great things. He's going to really help a team. If he can go to a team that just like they're ready to go, you can go somewhere where he can just be a nice complimentary piece. Like, I would love him as a Detroit Lion. I really would. You can let Montgomery carry a big bulk of the work because it seems like Swift's out the door. You can still use Swift. You can use Deuce Vaughn this year, and then going forward, you have a Montgomery Deuce Vaughn duo. I think that would be awesome. It would be so much fun. I would have a Deuce Vaughn jersey ordered the day of the draft. Like, I would be so happy, and I think it truly fits to go have him go somewhere where maybe he's on a bad team for 4 or 5 years. Like, it might be kind of wasting him. But at the same time, I also don't think he's going to get that full usage. So maybe you could preserve him a little bit. I don't know. But if he can go to a team that he can, go to a true contender, and if they don't want to throw him to the Wolves, he can be that nice 1B or even just if it's 2 if needed to a better back. Like, when he goes out there, he's going to make magic. He's going to create plays. And if you can, let him have, like 12 touches a game, like he's going to have 100-yard games in that, like multiple times, because he's just good enough to do it.
And he's an exciting player, but I think people don't really see or realize what kind of, I guess, person he is and like the mentality that comes with his game. Like, he is a guy that is there to grind it out. He is ready to go. And I think whatever team drafts him, they're going to see that very early on. Like you talked about how you hope whichever team drafts him gives him a chance. I think there's going to be no way that they don't give him a chance because of what he does in training camp, because of how he shows up day in and day out. This is a guy who's going to impress a coaching staff, and I think absolutely will get that chance and will make the best of it. So excited to see what Deuce Vaughn can do at the next level. But I'll leave it at that. Excited to see what he can do at the next level. Right. There we go.
Fair enough.
All right. My number one, my guy. I was thinking, do I stay in the same position group? I decided, no, let's go with my number one. My number one guy, and I've been seeing a little bit more love for him recently. Recently saw him as the number one offensive tackle in a mock draft, and that's Darnell Wright out of Tennessee. Absolutely love him. He is my offensive tackle 3. I see him more as a right tackle than a left tackle, but this guy's an absolute mauler. He will bite kneecaps. He will absolutely bully people in the pocket. He went up against B.J. Ojulari and Will Anderson this season, and neither of them were able to record a sack against Hendon Hooker. So this guy has the ability to be a true lockdown right tackle, in my opinion. I think he is just so incredibly physical against smaller guys. And then when it comes to the quickness, his hands are locked down. I mean, he just brings out his paw. And there's a great video that I saw on Twitter. Joe Goodberry tweeted it. And B.J. Ojulari put Darnell Wright on skates for a brief second to start the play. Somehow, Darnell Wright was able to put out his right hand, hold B.J. Ojulari back from the quarterback, as well as spin himself back onto his feet at the same exact time. I've got no idea how an athlete of over 330 pounds does that, but Darnell Wright does that. And he is easily my number one pick for the Cincinnati Bengals if he's available. I think that he is going to be a 10-year starter at right tackle, and he's going to be one of the best right tackles in the league. There's not much bad I can say about him. I think that he tends to look down a little bit, tends to get caught looking down and lunging, whether that be in the run game or the pass game, but he's got the recovery ability, and I just love Darnell Wright so much. If you've seen any of his Twitter stuff, it could be a little bit questionable. I know he freaked out on a dude for saying that he was only a right tackle. He said, when have you ever played in the NFL? And, what accolades do you have to say that kind of stuff? But he's also a guy that turns down chicks in his DMs, like OnlyFans girls. He's a crazy guy on social media, but he's also a crazy guy on the line, and that's what I love to see.
And, when I have my offensive tackle 7, it's not because I think he's bad. Like, it's still a second round grade for me. I think that he's someone that, for me, I don't know if I feel comfortable starting him day one. I think he's still got work to do. I think you saw a lot of what you're a big fan of. I saw that on film, but I didn't see it enough. I think it's a consistency thing where just the reps that he'll eventually get in practice and games, I think it's going to help him really move along. And I think he could be a good offensive tackle in the league. I think he could be someone that you safely start to be one of the best in the league. I don't know if I want to say that because, with 6 other guys I like more in this class, and then some of the classes that we've had in recent years, it's hard for me to get there. Like, when you look at Penei Sewell, for example, I don't imagine him ever being better than Penei Sewell. Like, is that a Lions favoritism thing? I don't know, but I can't imagine him ever being better than Penei Sewell. Like, that's just one example. And there's going to be other guys in this class that are on the right side, other guys that come up. But you don't have to be the best right tackle in the league in order to be a very good NFLer. And I think if he just goes in and if he can start for 10 years, like you said, like that's a great NFL career. That's a career that very, 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 very professional athletes at any level have. And that would be successful. He doesn't have to be a top 5, top 10 guy in the league at the time. If he's, top 10 would be nice, but he doesn't have to be a top 5, top 3, whatever. But if he's consistently in that that 6 to 10 spot in terms of talent at the right tackle, and just keeps doing that for 10 years, that's a fantastic career, awesome return on investment, basically no matter where you take him. But I think it's going to take a little more time. I don't think he's someone I'd want out there right away, just trusting him with everything. So that's the only reason I'm a bit lower on him, but I still see how you could get there, and I think the talent is there.
Yeah, and I'm cool with him starting day one. I mean, when you go up against Will Anderson, who is our number 2 overall player in this draft class, when you go up against BJ Ojulari, who is a very talented edge player in himself and don't give up anything, I think that you're going to be just fine going up against some of the guys at the NFL level at that right tackle position. I do have to say I don't think he is as scheme versatile as some other guys like Penei Sewell. I think very scheme versatile. He's got that athleticism to do whatever you need him to do. Whereas I think Darnell Wright is going to be more of your pass blocking, very strong, stone wall type of player. If you're going to be doing a bunch of zone runs and hoping that he can pull and do all that stuff, I don't think he's going to be your guy. I don't think he's going to be the worst in the league at it or the worst in the draft at it. But I think that if you're really looking at Darnell Wright as your first round pick, he's got to match the scheme as well. So I will say there, I think even though he's an all right mover for how big he is, you should not expect him to be a big puller in the zone run type of game.
And I don't disagree. And one more gripe I have with him, and it's really only an issue for me for offensive linemen. Every other position, I don't care that much about the arm and hand measurables, but it does make a difference for offensive linemen. It really does. And having 9-inch hands, having 33 3/4-inch arms, and having an 82 wingspan, like those are all things that are like the wingspan's about what's tested as average over time, but the others are low end, and 9-inch hands are small, and it's gonna limit your ability at grabbing guys and extending, reaching out for guys that are gonna be bigger, stronger, faster in the NFL. So that's why I think he's gonna need a little more time to make sure that he can do it, and I think he can get there. I absolutely think he can. I think he can win despite the arm size, or the arm length and the hand size. But I think he's just gonna kind of need to make sure that to himself and to prove his his coaching staff that this isn't ideal, but it doesn't matter because I'm good enough. I think that is definitely possible, but that's part of the whole development thing for me too.
Don't you like little arms himself, Peter Skoronski?
Yeah, but I think he's probably going to move to the interior in the NFL. I think he's better than than Wright is right now, and I think he is going to be like an absolutely elite guard in the NFL, like Quentin Nelson level elite if he goes to guard. Where I still think he is one of the better tackles in the league if he plays tackle.
Man, he should play. You should blah 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 blah. He should be in your my guys list. I don't know, Quentin Nelson level. I mean, I guess if it's this year, because Quentin Nelson was not that guy this year, but
I don't mean Quentin Nelson coming out like automatically best player in the league, but it's like what Quentin Nelson's like panned out to be. Like he's still been obviously one of the better ones, but like he's slightly underwhelmed. Like he has, and I think Peter Skoronski can like perform how he has. I really do, especially like these last 2 years. I really think that's like I think it's very possible.
Okay, cool. Let's get to your my guy number 2.
Let's say the position group of running back. Why not, right?
Sure.
All right. My number 2 is my running back 3, Roschon Johnson. The hell's that? Roschon Johnson, the better running back from Texas. No, but yeah.
Hey, Graham, take tracker. Johnson. Graham takes tracker.
Yeah, no, don't do that. It's okay. I'm a huge Roschon guy. I talked about it during the show that we had for running backs. I love his talent. I've gone back and watched running backs. I've gone back and watched almost every offensive position. Still got to do it for defense. And he didn't change at all. He didn't go any further down. He moved up in my overall rankings, but his grade didn't change because like everything I saw before, I just saw it again. Like he's got, great maneuverability for his side. Like he's a little bit bigger. He doesn't have like, just pure speed, but from what I saw, he's got, a great initial burst. I think that he can, move pretty well side to side. He's got good overall athleticism, and he's just a smart ball carrier who hasn't had a ton of workload in college. Like he was behind the best running back in college football only so much you can do in that one. If he would have transferred out and went to like basically any other Power 5 school, like he's the number one. And it's not much of a question because the talent is it's there. But I think he served himself better for the NFL. Maybe in terms of where he's getting drafted, I don't know. But in terms of how his body's going to hold up, he served himself better being in Texas because now he has less reps. He can go into the NFL and he can take on a bigger load if needed, and he's going to last longer than a guy that got hit 600 times in college. But there isn't anything that isn't in his game for me, even if it's not at like absolute elite levels. I like basically every part of his game I think is at minimum very strong, if not high end. Like I someone that if I played him all like every down, no complaints. If you want to use him rotational, maybe he can be more efficient that way. I don't know, but like if you take him and he's your only running back, I don't think you're gonna have any issues. I still think he's a guy that he can carry the rock 300 times. He can make 30 catches, and you feel very safe with that. He's someone that will go later than the second round, more likely than not, and I think you get an absolute killer value just about anywhere you get him.
Yeah, I think there's only two things that I have question marks about with Roschon Johnson, and I've updated my rankings recently as well. He now sits at my running back 6. Roschon Johnson, great player overall. Two biggest question marks is, one, you mentioned how not playing a ton, playing more of a backup role in college is going to be good for his body going forward. I agree, but I also question, with the lack of reps, is everything we've seen on tape the truest ability, the truest form that we've seen him? I'd like to see, if he was able to do it a little bit more, that would have been cool to see. The consistency across 500 snaps versus 200 snaps is big. And then secondly, I think that he's fine when it comes to the pass game. And if you're looking for just, a little bit of screen action or little safety blanket type of passing, he's going to be just fine. But if you want to be more creative with him, similar to a Jahmyr Gibbs, Alvin Kamara, stuff like that, I don't think he's going to be able to excel in that role. So those are my only two big gripes with him right now. But overall, I think he's an awesome back. And if he goes to a really nice position, I mean, it's going to be hard for me to pass up on him with the fantasy draft coming up soon thereafter.
Yeah, 100%, man. And that's exactly like a 30 catch per year guy that's for fantasy football. That is going to be very valuable, and that is someone that's very valuable to an NFL team. But that is a guy that's going to get more underneath. I mean, maybe he runs a quick Texas route and he's 3 yards from line of scrimmage and he throws the ball, something like that. But like overall, he's not going down the field. He's not hitting streak routes. He's not doing that type of stuff. And you don't need to. Like most running backs don't need to. So if you're good enough and you can get more creative, that's awesome. That's a great skill set to have. But most running backs don't need to nowadays. So you don't have to worry about that too much for him. And if you really want to worry about it, you can go bring in a specialty player to go do that. But if he can go somewhere and he can kind of get the ace role, I think he would have a lot of success. I really do.
I agree with you. And for my guy number 2, we're going to stay in the running back position. And very similar to how you view Roschon Johnson, I view Kendre Miller out of TCU. He is my running back 3, coming in at 6 foot 220. He's a big dude. I mean, if you saw pictures of him in his crop top working out, I mean, the guy is massive. I know I sent it to you, Chase. Dude is a big boy, and he doesn't always play like he's, that big power back. He has some really nice elusiveness to him. I think he's going to be an awesome 3-down back. I think he's suitable in the same fashion that Roschon is. I don't think he's going to be a fantastic pass-catching back, but I think if you're looking for screens, safety blanket, that type of action, he's going to be just fine in that category. I think that this guy is or has the elusiveness that most big men don't. I mean, when you look at his forced missed tackle rate, it's over 30%. I know when we initially looked at him and I was talking about how excited I am for him, I said, it seems like he, broke a tackle or forced a missed tackle like 80% of his plays. Obviously, that'd be impossible. I think Bijan's was like 37%. But I think Kendre Miller is sitting around 33, 34% of forced missed tackle rate. This guy is excellent at that. So there's a lot of things that I really like about Kendre Miller. Speed isn't blazing, but I think that he's sitting in a similar level to the likes of your Roshan, Zach Charbonnet, guys that aren't going to take 180 yards to the house, but if you get a 40-yard chunk out of this guy and he breaks 3 tackles along the way, you're not going to be angry about that whatsoever. So Kendre Miller, very similar in my eyes as Roshan is to you. I think that if he goes to a good position, he's probably going to be a top 6, top 7 pick for me in the fantasy draft.
Yeah, and I think the talent is definitely there to be, someone that, like, if he was used in, a higher end role, I think he could have success. Right now, I've got him as a 3rd-round pick, my 12th overall running back in the class, which just shows what I think of the running back class. And if it were if you were in last year's class, he'd be a lot higher than 12 because last year's class was a bit weaker, where there's a lot of talent I really like in this class. So ends up falling a bit, and really the problem for me was, like, he just looked so slow to me in film. He really didn't. His testing kind of proved that, it was closer to 4.6, and it's not like that's horribly slow for running back. When you're looking at a receiver, that's when, that speed becomes more underwhelming. Running backs, it's a little bit different. You worry more about shifting. It's not just straight downfield. So it's not like it's the end of the world, but he looks slow to me. And I do think overall, though, like, if he can get to a spot where he's trusted, he can definitely have some success. I mean, you saw it at TCU. He absolutely dominated, put up some very strong numbers, and at the end of the day, production don't lie, and it's a big thing to thank Bigsby. I can't praise Tank Bigsby for that and not praise Kendre Miller for that, because, like, that'd just be hypocritical. The production does matter. He dominated. He really did. He played so well, and there is a lot to like. I do think that the forced missed tackle rate is huge, and I think he's got strong agility. I think he has good ball carrier vision. The speed concerns me a little bit. And I just think he really, needs to find more consistency in the pass game, even if you don't use him a ton that way. I like Roshan better in the pass game than I do him. So if he can continue working all that, yeah, I think he's got a very good shot of being a good NFL back. And I think a lot of guys in this class do, quite frankly. But if I had to put my eggs in one basket, it's not going to be Kendre, but I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see him be successful.
If it makes you feel any better about the whole speed aspect, I kind of understand what you're saying when you watch the tape, but I don't think it's him running balls to the wall. He's a very patient runner, especially near the line of scrimmage. And then secondly, he didn't test at all. He didn't participate in the combine or his pro day. So I think the numbers you're seeing out there are probably projections.
Oh yeah, projections. Yeah, I looked it up, and I went to NFL Draft Buzz to try to see, and I just read the 40 time because I couldn't see anywhere else. So that makes sense.
Yeah. So because he's been dealing with, I think it was a back injury. So he didn't do anything at the combine or the pro day, but I think that, like, the speed really doesn't bother me. I mean, he's not running a 4.7. I don't think he's running a 4.6. I think he'd be similar to your Zach Charbonnets and Tank Bigsby's, the low 4.5s. So I'm just super excited about this guy. I think that the potential with the forced missed tackle rate, as well as the patience he shows at the line of scrimmage, as well as his size, like, all of that, putting it all together and being able to have a team fully back you, like, I think the sky is the limit, and I am very excited to see where he goes. Now, if he goes to a place that isn't as fun, I think that goes for all these guys. I mean, especially the running back position. Opportunity is definitely something that they need to really thrive, and if a Roshan or a Kendre Miller go to, like, a Dallas, where they're obviously going to be sitting behind Tony Pollard for at least the first little bit of their career, that's going to be a bummer.
Yeah, I do agree. I want to see basically all these running backs get on the field as early as possible, see what they can do, because I do think a lot of guys can have success. So I'm going to agree with you, definitely in that aspect. I'd like to see him really get a shot kind of from day one, see what he can do.
All right, number 3, who do you got?
So number 3, I got 5 total players on this list, 3 offensive, 2 defensive. So my final offensive player, I do have Bryce Ford-Wheaton, wide receiver from West Virginia, guy that I've been raving about ever since I saw his film. And I saw his testing, and I'm a big athlete guy when it comes to receiver. It's the really one position where it really sways me one way or the other. Like, quarterbacks, it's nice. Running backs, it's nice. Tight ends, it's nice. Cornerbacks, it's nice. Linebacker, it's nice everywhere. But receiver, it really matters to me, especially with size. When you're an athletic freak with that type of size, it changes things. Teams have to, even if you don't have, like, super sure hands like some guys might not. Teams still have to, scheme themselves a little bit differently because they have to prepare that maybe you'll go up and grab a ball or you'll just beat me downfield. I don't know. I got to put different types of guys on you. Got to make sure I have a guy that can cover you. And, that's what Bryce Ford Wheaton offers. As, standing at 6'4", 221, he ended up running, a 4.38, which is, very, very fast for that size. His RAS score, I think it was his 3 cone. If he got it to 6 flat instead of like the 6.2, it was something like that.
6.97.
He would have been. Yeah, okay. Sorry. Close enough. But if he would have gotten a 6 flat somehow, he finishes like the wide receiver 2 or 3 on that list, whatever it was. And if he got that 6 flat, he would have been a higher ranked athlete than Calvin Johnson, who's currently sits at that one spot, which is just crazy. It really speaks to that athletic ability he has, and you can combine it with his his production. Yeah, you see, all right, 4 years, he got 143 career receptions. Seems low, but he's not playing in some prolific passing offense. He's playing for West Virginia. They not a air it out 60% of the time type of offense by any means. So when you see 62 catches for 675 and 7, that's that's good overall. You sure you want to see maybe him averaging 14, 15 yards per catch like that I can understand that to to an extent, but that's just not the way they operated as an offense. He didn't really get the chance to fully showcase his abilities. I think if he can go somewhere and get on the field early, as that number 2, number 3 type, doesn't have to be, playing every down, but just give him a chance. I think he could really shock some people, and as long as he continues to develop himself, continues to develop that route tree a bit, develop his hands a little bit, I think he's got a ton of opportunity for success.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely an awesome athlete, and really interested to see how he's able to kind of develop his game to get to that next level. But you mentioned how he needs to develop the hands a little bit. I saw that as well. He seemed a little bit inconsistent with his hands. I noticed that on film, when it came to 50-50 balls, and they're called 50-50 balls for a reason, but there were times where he was absolutely dominant, made it look like, 70-30, 80-20. But then there were times where I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was just an off day or if he had to poop or what it was, but it was nearly an 80-20 ball for the corner that he was up against. And then I think 2 things when it comes to his physical aspects, physical attributes. I think he needs to put on a little bit more size. It doesn't seem like his play strength is great. Seems like he can get knocked off routes quite a bit, gets pushed out to the outside when it comes to his go routes. And, that's the corner's job, push you out to the boundary. But it seems it's a little bit too easy for them at times when it comes to BFW. And then finally, you mentioned the 3 cone. His 3 cone sits just above average. I think the grade itself is a 6.49, so just sitting above average. And I kind of noticed that as well. He's got the speed, but when it comes to his quick change of direction, it's not really elite. So I think if it was, then he could turn himself into a fantastic route runner, and after the catch, he could be even more dangerous than what he is. But a guy with this kind of athleticism, you look at his vert, his broad, it shows he's got that explosiveness. You see the 40-yard dash, he's got the speed as well. This is definitely a player to take a chance on. I just think he's going to take a little bit longer to actually develop and hopefully become that high-end player that you see him as.
Yeah, man, I hope this is, if the Lions aren't going to go, super high for a receiver, this is the exact dude I want them to take, because I do see a path where he could really have a ton of success. And, the 3 cone, sure, you can raise some questions about it, but, the easy comparison is DK Metcalf, because it's a very similar build, similar, like 4 times, similar athletic numbers. DK ran a little bit faster, but still at the end of the day, generally similar. DK's 3 cone was a 7.38, and when you're looking at the 6.9 here for Bryce Ford Wheaton, that makes you feel a little bit better, because that obviously is better. And I think that if you use him in a same type of role, that he could have a lot of similar success. Maybe he's not ever going to lead your team in receiving yards or receptions. I think maybe if he ends up being an elite number 2, that'd be awesome. But I still see a path where he is 1,000-yard receiver often, because he has this, unique ability combined, the speed and size combination where it's just going to be so hard to match up against him. Just get him, get him the reps practice, just continue to develop him, give him, the chance to succeed in the NFL, and I think he finds a way to do it.
Yeah, potentially. Could be exciting. I don't know if he goes as high as DK Metcalf does. And we talked about how DK Metcalf, he even fell. I know a lot of people were projecting him, I think like 11 to the Bills or whatever, because the Bills were in desperate need of a wide receiver. And DK Metcalf obviously put on a crazy combine. And so technically compared to expectations as we were heading into the draft, he fell a little bit, but I think he still went 63 or something like that.
He was right at the end of the second round. I don't know if he was the last second round pick or if it was bottom 3, but it was somewhere around there. It was something like that.
Yeah. Where do you see Bryce Ford Wheaton going?
I think he probably ends up early to mid round 4. I think, he's not refined enough where you want to take him above some of these other guys, which, fair enough, but it's going to be too hard to ignore the measurables. And if somebody takes him end of day 2, I'm really not going to be that surprised. But the what he has, I really don't see anybody, waiting too long to not take a chance on him.
Mm-hmm. I feel you for sure. All right. We are going to go to, let's see. Do I knock off my only defensive player or do I go to another offensive player that I am very high on?
I don't know, man. I got 2 more defensive guys, so we're not gonna have the same defensive guys, so it doesn't even matter. Whatever you want to do. I kept it my offensive players then defensive just to keep them on the same side of the ball, but you can do whatever you want.
I'll go with my offensive player because I think I'm higher on him versus consensus than the defensive player, and that's Sam Laporta, tight end out of Iowa. This guy was easily the number 1 threat on that Iowa offense. He often played in the slot and even on the boundary as a tight end. And he is just such a fluid athlete. And that's one thing that I think is a very high grade point for me is if you're not a fluid athlete, if your hips are tight, if you're a little clunky. I mean, you look at Michael Mayer, if he was an elite athlete, he would easily be the number 1 tight end in this class, in my opinion. I mean, he's fantastic when it comes to his blocking, his catching, all of that. But he's not that fluid of an athlete, whereas Sam Laporta, I mean, that's the first thing that stands out to me. How fluid he is. And then when you look at his route running, it is better than 80% of the wide receivers in this class. This dude can do it all at that tight end position. He's got great hands. He was the Big Ten tight end of the year, I think just last year, the 2021 season, that is. Sam Laporta is just that guy when it comes to his receiving upside. And then also, I think he's a better blocker than your Dalton Kincaids. I got to go back and watch Dalton Kincaid, but I think as of right now, Sam Laporta is the better blocker. And then I feel like their actual receiving ability is pretty similar. So I'm excited to see where Sam Laporta goes. I wouldn't be mad if he went to the Bengals at 28. I think he's going to be more of a late round 2, early round 3 type of tight end. He's not getting as much love as your Dalton Kincaids, Michael Mayer, Darnell Washington. But this is a guy that if you're looking for a receiving threat, this is him.
I hear you, and I definitely moved up on him quite a bit after going over film a bit more. I had him, I don't remember I had him, but I had him too low for your liking, and he ended up moving up quite a bit in my draft rankings. He currently sits on my tight end 4, and he's ranked 49th in my class. So I definitely going on me quite a bit. And when you compare it to Dalton Kincaid, I think Dalton Kincaid is definitely the better of the 2. I think he currently sits as a little bit better of an athlete, a little more refined. Not like I shouldn't say a little bit better of an athlete, but he does things different, differently athletically, I should say. It's you can kind of yin and yang type thing, I guess. But I think he's just a little more refined and someone I'm trusting 100% day one to go catch a bunch of balls for me. Where Laporta, maybe I want him to be more you can give him a bunch of snaps, but maybe more supplemental in my offense and let him adapt a little bit more. To kind of comment on the route running thing though, I got a little fun fact for you. and it's just about my grading scale. So it's out of 6 for categories. Some couple categories it's out of 3, and it's for measurable stuff normally in college production, but it's out of 6. For my receivers and my tight ends, I have 3 guys that have perfect route running scores. It's JSN, Dalton Kincaid, and Sam Laporta. That is my favorite thing about him is he is just an absolutely elite route runner. It's what Jerry Jeudy was coming out of college in terms of his route running. Like, it's Sam Laporta. Same thing for me. Like it's obviously a receiver to a tight end. So the fact that the tight end can have that's huge. I think that's going to be his ultimate selling point in the NFL. As long as he shows he can continue that, and how maybe even expand upon it a little more and really just embarrass not only linebackers but defensive backs. Like he's got a lot of chance for success.
Yeah, and when comparing Dalton Kincaid and Sam Laporta, I think when it comes to strictly the route running, receiving ability, that kind of stuff, I give Sam Laporta the slight edge, but I think where Dalton Kincaid makes up that ground and why I still got to go back through my tight ends, but why he is currently my number 1 tight end was after the catch, Dalton Kincaid was just another level. I think Sam Laporta can get there with the athletic ability that he has. And he wasn't bad by any means in that aspect, but I think he could really reach a next level. And you talk about Iowa tight ends. I mean, there's been so many: Noah Fant, TJ Hawkinson, George Kittle. I think Sam Laporta is going to be another one of these guys that is going to shine at the next level. I think that he is on the same track or same ability as Noah Fant when it comes to the receiving ability, but he's better in the trenches than Noah Fant was. I don't think he's as good as George Kittle or TJ Hawkinson there, but he's definitely suitable in that aspect. So excited to see what he can do. And I think that he is going to be, if he goes to a good position, I think he can already be a top 8 dynasty tight end in fantasy football. Hot take.
I think it's possible, but I don't know. It's a large take.
I mean, when you look at your top 8, I mean, I'm sure people still have your like Dallas Goederts and stuff in there, which you look at Dallas Goedert's last couple of seasons, like they haven't been wowing by any means. So I think that depending on his position, could be a good little player there.
I mean, I think he'll be a good player, but I don't know. I guess we'll see.
All right, you're number 4.
At number 4, going Travius Hodges-Tomlinson, cornerback. Right now, my 6th ranked cornerback, my 45th ranked player in the class, and same player and a 6-foot build is, I think, slam dunk cornerback 1. I really do. Like, he is incredible when it comes to, like deflecting balls, defending passes, despite his size. 5'8", 178 is what he measured in. It's very small. He does not have big hands. He does not have long arms, but man, he finds a way to get up there. He's got a great vert, great broad. He's got awesome, just awesome athletics, good 40 time, and he does a really, really strong job just going and disrupting passes, like, as I mentioned. And he had 3 interceptions as well on this last season, on top of his 15 passes defended. Someone who, he does pretty well tackling. He's not someone that like you have to worry too much about, despite his size. I think he can once he gets a hold of you, I think compared to the other corners, it's not going to be much of an issue. There might be some guys that are a little bit better. Sure, I get that, but it doesn't concern me. If I've always got a place in my heart for very small players and very big players. And, right now it's a guy who's very small, but like he would be talent-wise, locked and loaded first-round pick with just average quarterback size. So give him a chance. Let him prove that he can win outside for you, even despite that size. And if he can't, he'll just go ahead and be the best slot corner in the league.
Yeah, and how you talked about Kendre Miller being your number 12, but it just shows the respect you have for the class overall. It's similar for LT's nephew here for me. I have him number 9 in the cornerback class, but I still have a second-round grade on him, and I think he's going to be excellent. I mentioned in our cornerback talk last week that he reminds me a lot of Mike Hilton, who is a Cincinnati Bengal. I mean, the guy is aggressive. He's fast. He's great great over the middle of the field, covering slot receivers. Like, this guy doesn't have many flaws aside from the size. And then there is some question marks. I know you said you're not too worried about it, but with the size, question marks on if he can take down some of the bigger guys. If he goes up against a Derrick Henry in the run game, I'm not sure it's going to go over too well. I'll be honest. But, I mean, this guy has the skill, the mirroring ability, the aggressiveness that you like to see out of players like this. And I think he's going to be one of the best slot corners in the league. Very excited for him. But I'm not going to lie, Chase. I'm a little surprised you went Hodges Tomlinson over Emmanuel Forbes, who I know you're also a giant fan of.
Yeah, it was between the two. And at the end of the day, I went Hodges Tomlinson just because of the size, and I think he can win outside despite being 5'8". So I figured I should talk about it extra more than we just did on our DB show. And Emmanuel Forbes, I think, is like a quarterback one for a team. So I would have had no problem talking about him, but I wanted to make sure to give my guy THT some love. But shout out to Emmanuel Forbes. The guy is just an absolute menace, the Slim Reaper of defensive backs.
Yeah, I mean, the cornerback class is fantastic this year. And
it's great, dude.
I agree with you that if Hodges Tomlinson was 6 foot and was more looked at as an outside corner compared to a slot corner, his value would be higher, and he would likely be one of those players talked about as potentially a first-round pick. So I don't think it would be a guaranteed lock in my eyes, but definitely when you look at the slot corner role and smaller guys, they're not as higher valued as a true lockdown outside corner. But the crazy thing is he was a true lockdown corner at TCU, even with his 5'8" frame.
Which is why I think it's at least worth giving him a shot. If you don't at least give him a chance, like, you're doing yourself a disservice, because you're going to spend decent draft capital on him. If you just don't let him have a shot, like, what are you doing?
I get that. I'd also, if I had 2 great corners on the outside already and was just looking for that slot, I wouldn't give it a chance. I'd just be like, all right, dude, you're going to be the best damn slot corner in the league. Also, I don't think it would really be a worry for him, but some other players, I mean, you never really know where their mental game stands, and if they get beat a couple of times, what does that do to them? So I don't think that would really affect LT's nephew per se, but there is those questions when it comes to just prospects as a whole.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's going to, because I think he's getting drafted day 2, like, for sure. And it might be 3rd round. I don't know, but I don't think a team that has like bona fide corners is going to spend a pick on him, unless it's a team that's like, we're so good and our draft boards happen to fall this way, might as well take this guy for supplemental help. But I think he'll go somewhere where, like, he'll be, even if it is in the slot, someone that they trust is, like, they're identifying as their quarterback too.
Mm-hmm. My number 4, and I'll be honest, I'm going to go with the defensive player here, but he's the only defensive player I'm going to be mentioning. And the defensive side of the ball was hard for me because I feel like most players that are on the top of my list are pretty consensus. There's no guys that really stand out as I'm much higher on than others, except for the one I'm going to be talking about. I would have loved to talk about Christian Gonzalez. I think he is probably my favorite defensive player in this draft class. I think there's better, but he's probably my favorite defensive player in this draft class. But everyone knows he's going to be a top 15 pick. He's awesome. So the defenseman I'm going to talk about as my guy is BJ Ojulari out of LSU. Everyone knows, or if you've listened to the episode, I've got him very high. I've got him in my top 15 of the NFL draft, and that's as the number 4 edge. So that kind of shows you what I think about this edge class. I think it's got a very high ceiling. Will Anderson up there. Nolan Smith has insane athleticism. Tyree Wilson, a great ceiling as well. But BJ Ojulari, one of those guys that right now, he's still got work to do in his game, but he shows the will and want to be at that next level. I talked about how he's already being creative at LSU. He's trying new things. If he gets shut down, that doesn't mean he's going to stop using it. He's going to try again. Now maybe he won't continue to go, and the definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. He's not crazy, but he's going to try to make some things work. He's going to experiment a little bit, and once he finds something that does work, he's going to continue to beat down the offensive tackles with that ability. I think he's a pretty solid run stopper already, but when it comes to just his pass rush, he's already at an elite level. He's got elite bend. He's got good speed. I'm excited to see what he can do at the next level. I think he's better than his brother Aziz, and I think whoever gets him, if he's in the second round, it's going to be a steal.
Yeah, and I've got him ranked at 38, and I think he probably goes in the second round. I do. So wherever you get him in the second round is probably good value. And so 38, edge 7. When you got someone ranked that high in the draft, it's not a slight by any means. Even if he's viewed as your 7th edge, it doesn't matter. He's still a very talented player. My only question, the thing that holds him back is just looking at him. I think he can add, a little bit more weight, maybe a little bit more muscle, just add more mass. I think that would really go a long way for him to help him kind of be able to dominate more a little bit when it comes to that power strength game. I think he could have a lot more success if he can just kind of figure that out. Nothing you can do about the height is what it is, but he weighed in at 248. If he can get to 258 without sacrificing athleticism, like that would make him look so much bigger and let him have a lot more success. So I'd love to see him try to do that, see if it works out. But even if not, he's still going to be at least a great second pass rusher on your team. Like if you got an elite pass rusher, a team's got to account for a double block, you can go worry about him on the other side, and he's going to kind of have a field day. So I'd be very happy if I were a team and he happened to fall in my lap. Like that'd be great.
Yeah, and I don't know if I see BJ Ojulari as your Myles Garrett type, where he's going to be like easily the number 1 pass rusher on your team. But I think he can very well fit a role of a 1A, 1B, be one of those top guys that you continue to think about. He's not going to be a guy that is going to be the number 1 priority, but I also don't think you're going to be like, that's just your number 2. So I really like BJ Ojulari. He's got long arms too, which is really fun because if a running back gets away from him, which they don't usually, he can track him down really easily, got good speed. And oftentimes when you saw him disrupting the run, it was coming from around the backside of the running back. So he's good in that area, and you know how I feel about him in the pass rush as well. So really excited to see what BJ Ojulari can do. I think that he is able to start day 1 and have some decent production. I'm not going to give a true prediction of like 10 sacks plus like I did with Yotis Karlaftis last year because he didn't get those 10 sacks. However, he was second in pressures amongst rookies, only behind Aiden Hutchinson. So I feel kind of good about that.
Dude, oh God, I was so happy with Hutch last year. He did such a great job for rookie. But yeah, no, your boy George, like, Karlaftis, he is awesome. He looks like he's going to be like not a 20 sack guy, but like just an unrelenting, just dude in pressure. And I know it's a previous draft class, so we're not talking about him too much. But like he's going to be an awesome defensive player. And if Ojulari ends up in this same like aspect in terms of his rookie production, maybe in a different way, but in terms of that rookie production, like that's a great rookie season.
Oh, absolutely. All right, let's end it off with your number 5.
My number 5, I'm going to go, the position that I think doesn't get enough love in the NFL. That's a linebacker position. I got to go Jack Campbell, even though he's just about everybody's linebacker one without much question. It's the fact that where I have him ranked as my 10th best player in the draft class. I have him ranked as a top 16 talent grade. Like if I took him in the top 16 pick, I'd have no problem with that. And linebackers are used a lot different in the NFL nowadays. There's less and less true linebackers. More often, it's a linebacker being used kind of as a pass rusher. You're seeing things what the Lions do where they're only using 2 linebackers. They're going to have 5 DBs out there, that type of thing. So linebackers they're kind of slowly dying off. But I think this is the dude where if you need a linebacking replacement, like grab him. It doesn't matter what you need him to do. He's going to be able to do it. If you're a team that uses a heavy linebacker set, maybe you run 3 or even 4 out there at a time. He's the dude. You want him. Like he does everything at such a high level for the linebacker position. I've got him legitimately elite rankings in everything except for his pass rush. That's the only thing that I think could improve, and he's not bad at it. I still have him as being good at it, but it's just not elite. But everything else, dude, he's He's gonna be the smartest defensive player on the field. He reacts incredibly well. He's a short tackler, just wraps up. The guys don't slip through him. He's awesome in coverage. He put up great numbers. He has awesome linebacker size, 6'4", 249, on top of being, a just super high end athlete. I don't know what else you can want from a guy. I think he's going to be a green dot kind of player where he's going to command the defense basically anywhere he goes. Probably not as a rookie because that doesn't happen. That'd be very rare, but not very long into his career. It's going to take him, his rookie season, like maybe through his second year before he's like the most trusted player on whatever defense he's in.
Yeah, I mean, I like Jack Campbell a lot. He's my linebacker 1, but I've got him 33 in my draft class. And we talked a little bit about it last night while we were playing Xbox. And I just don't know if I can get there. I don't see him. The highest graded linebacker that I have graded up to this point was Micah Parsons. I don't think he's that same level. I didn't grade Roquan, but I don't think he would grade out as high as I would Roquan when he was coming out. And my only big question marks about Campbell overall is I don't think he's an elite athlete. I think he's a good athlete to maybe even a great athlete. But when you look at guys in the top 10 of draft classes, unless they're a quarterback, they're an elite athlete. And there's potential that they could be a quarterback and an elite athlete, especially this year with Anthony Richardson. So I don't see him as an elite athlete there. And then I do have a lot of, I want to see more out of him when it comes to the trenches, because I think in both the run game and the pass rush game, he could do a little bit more. I think he tends to get locked down a little bit in the run game if players are able to get their hands on him. He doesn't really have the strength, speed, move set to kind of get off of them super quick and make that play. And then also when it comes to the pass rush, I don't know if it's the bend, if it's the strength. I don't know what it is, but I feel like he's not a fantastic pass rusher either. So those are my only question marks about him. I think he's great at diagnosing the play. You said smartest player on the field. I absolutely see that out of him. I think that he is awesome in coverage, and I think that if it's him versus like a Michael Mayer, that could be like the matchup of all time on the inside, at least for this draft class. So Jack Campbell, awesome in those categories, but the athleticism and around the trenches would be the only question marks I have, which pushes him down to 33 overall for me.
Whoever drafts him, please just listen to me. Use him like Shaq Leonard. Thank me later, because you play him the exact same role, he's going to dominate. Because Shaq Leonard's a top 10 coverage player in the NFL. Like, he just is. Like, I'm sorry, the numbers prove that too. And Jack Campbell has the path to be the exact same way. He just profiles just exactly the same way, dude. I love his talent. I love his IQ. I love everything about him. Maybe I love the linebacker position too much as a whole, but I don't care. I'm going to scream it from the rooftops. I love the linebacker position. I love Jack Campbell.
And the thing is, you look at the linebacker position and how they've gotten paid this offseason, you're going to want a young linebacker that can be stout on your defense. We got Jermaine Pratt on the Bengals for a nice cheap deal, and then just thereafter, guys were getting signed for, 15, 16 million. We saw Roquan get 18 or 20 million, something like that with Baltimore. So
yeah,
with contracts being that high, if you can nail a top linebacker, that's huge.
Oh, dude, it's a home run. And all these guys that I mentioned today, if you put them onto a team that's ready to win, I think every single one of them can play right away, except for Bryce Ford-Wheaton. Maybe he's better off being used in a complementary role. And still, if you needed him to play, if the Chiefs needed him, Patrick Mahomes can figure out a way to make him work. Can figure out a way to get him 1,000-yard receiver as a rookie. I think it's definitely possible. But all these guys, especially Jack Campbell, tops my list. If as a rookie, you want him on the field. You don't want to take him off. He's going to help out in every aspect of your defensive game, and he's just going to be such a trusted player. It's just I would never take him off the field.
Yeah, good little player there for sure. I'm going to round mine off with a wide receiver. And
Okay.
I was initially going to talk about the one and only Rashee Rice. And if you've watched our wide receiver rankings, you know how big of a fan I am of his. I believe he is my wide receiver 6. However, redoing some wide receiver film, I watched someone new who is now my wide receiver 5. And so I decided that I would talk about him instead, and that's going to be Jonathan Mingo out of Ole Miss. He's gotten a lot of hype in the last couple of weeks, which I think he rightfully deserves. This is a guy who easily gets comparisons with A.J. Brown. When you look at him, he's 6'1", 220 pounds. A.J. Brown came into the draft at 6 foot, just a little bit over 6 foot, 226 pounds. They got that same stocky build. They both wore number 1 at Ole Miss. It's easy to look at these guys and say, they're pretty similar. When you look at their 40-yard dash, A.J. Brown 4.49, Jonathan Mingo a 4.48. Jonathan Mingo was better when it comes to the 10 and the 20-yard split. And then, as you hear, just slightly better. Actually, it's a 4.46, not a 4.48. Excuse me. This is a guy that I think can fill that A.J. Brown role really well. He plays physical. I noticed immediately, the first thing that I saw with this guy is that he is the best wide receiver when it comes to blocking. Whether that be blocking for a screen, blocking in the run game, no matter what he's doing, if he's blocking, he is the best one in the class. Remember talking about George Pickens last year, Chase, where George Pickens blew dudes up in the blocking game? Mingo can do the same thing. So I absolutely love Mingo for that reason. I think that he's already a really, really polished route runner. I don't say he's elite, such as Jackson Smith and Jigba, but he's already very polished when it comes to his route running. His hands are awesome. I think that the differences between A.J. Brown and Jonathan Mingo, who are similar in a lot of ways, I think Mingo's already stronger coming out of the draft compared to A.J. Brown when it comes to his play strength and his blocking ability. I think he's already there. I think he's also got a better release than A.J. Brown did as he was coming out. Now, I think the positives for A.J. Brown was he's a little bit better after the catch. So I'd like to see Mingo develop a little bit there. But I think overall, this guy, his flaws are minimal. All things that they can be worked on as well. There's some players that they have flaws and it's just not very possible to work on. Mingo can work on all his flaws, and I think he's already got a really safe floor to come in, be a wide receiver 2 on a team, and I think that he has the potential to eventually be that wide receiver 1. Now, I still have him as a day 2 grade. I have him as my number 5, and when you look at overall rankings, I believe he's around 42. But this is a guy that we didn't talk about in our first wide receiver rankings, and I figured let's give some love for the boy.
I guess I'm going to need to rewatch because I don't really agree with this high of praise. I've got him as a day 3 grade, pretty overall relatively low in my rankings. I got him at 136 right now, and he just didn't. That's still a 4th round pick for me. So like comparative, to everyone else and where you have him, like it's kind of low. I don't know, man. I don't think he's bad. I just don't think he's good enough in any aspect to go like, all right, this dude's ready to go. I'm happy to play him year 1 as my wide receiver 2. I'm not there. I think he, down the road, can he be a nice option? Sure. Like, look at what Josh Reynolds was for the Lions last year. The serpent of death, as Dan Campbell would call him. He, should he be a guy that you trust every down? No, but if you need him to come in and do something, he can definitely do it. It's the same thing for having one of these elite, backup quarterbacks in the league. Like when you look at Gardner Minshew, maybe he's, not worthy of a starter, but like I would happily pay him a ton of money to be my backup because like he can go in and just do what he needs to do. He's never going to wow you, never going to, like completely flop unless he's playing injured, which happened in Jacksonville. But it's a similar thing to Jonathan Mingo, where like I don't want to target him 100 times. Like I don't think he's good enough to put up enough production for that. I don't think he has enough dynamic ability, or he's too elite in one way or the other, just from what I've seen. But I do think he is well rounded, and if he gets the opportunity where he has to like play, like he won't do bad. I just think he's probably better off, maybe seeing if he can develop things a little more, see what he can do long term, or if he goes into a high octane offense that just really needs an extra receiver, maybe he finds some success that way.
Yeah, I don't really see any big weaknesses in his game, and I think that if you don't see weaknesses in a game, then you go and look, is he a fantastic athlete? And he is. Jonathan Mingo scored a 9.86 on his RAS, and I know we were tweeting or putting in our tweet messages. You said that you'd have to go back and watch him because you've been seeing a lot more hype. Did you get to him yesterday, or is this still your initial thoughts based on the first time you watched him like 2 months ago?
It's still initial. I had zero chance to get to him yesterday or today, so like I'm gonna go back and watch. He's a guy I absolutely plan on going back and watching and seeing what I missed. But so those are just my initial notes that I took weeks ago. He's a guy. I went back and watched a lot of players on offense. He's not one guy I rewatched.
Yeah, and I know that. And this might not be the case. Maybe you have the same thoughts on him. Maybe he even drops some. Like Keishon Butte was a guy that you and I both had in our top 10. We went back and watched. We saw his RAS score. Yeah. He dropped. So, again, you might have the same thoughts on him, but I know for me, when I sat down and I was watching for 3-4 hours, that film fatigue really added up, and I started missing some stuff. Jonathan Mingo, I did not watch him the first time around. I watch him now, and I think he's a great player. And just speaking on that film fatigue real quick, Josh Downs was initially like my 15th or 16th receiver. He's jumped up to my number 9. So this is a guy that I really like as well. He's only got a 2% drop rate, which is the best in the class. So just little things that I've missed across the way. I think there could be that potential for you, but who knows? I'm excited to hear your thoughts after you rewatch him.
Yeah, I'll be sure to let you know. And Josh Downs, he's my wide receiver 11 ended day 2 for me. So if he goes in the first round, like I saw some people saying, oh, he maybe is good enough, that would be an absolute mistake. But nonetheless, Mingo, I'll definitely go back and rewatch. I got some time this week, so we'll take a look, and I will be sure to update you.
Going to be exciting, but those are our guys. My guys, our guys, Chase's guys. They're
my guys, your guys, our guys.
Those are the ones that we are very excited for. We have a lot higher than general consensus at this point. I'm excited to hear if you guys, all the fans watching right now or listening right now, is there anyone that you are super excited for? Who are your guys? Let us know down in the comments if you are on YouTube. If you could, please give us a like and subscribe, as well as hit that notification or hit the bell to turn on notifications. That would be fantastic. We got our mock draft next week. We've got another mock draft with Landon, my cousin, the Locker Room podcast. So be on the lookout for both of those. It's exciting. We're only a week and a half away from the draft. It's going to be fantastic. And if you want to see our updated, after we go through everything, our updated top 10s for every single position, make sure to go follow us on Twitter at WNP Sports Pod. That's again on Twitter at WNP Sports Pod. We're going to be releasing graphics of our top 10 right there. Thanks so much for listening. If you are listening on a podcast platform, if you could also give us a 5-star rating and a follow, we'd really appreciate it. It's been a long time coming, but the draft season is almost over. We're so excited. Thanks so much for coming out. And as always, we're not professionals.